A horror rainy night. The rain poured relentlessly, each drop striking the ground like the drumbeat of some unrelenting force. In a remote corner of a small town, surrounded by dense, towering woods, a young nurse named Sarah gripped the steering wheel of her car. The narrow road wound endlessly before her, its slick surface shimmering like a coiled serpent under the harsh rain. Sarah had just finished a grueling night shift at the hospital. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her, and her thoughts revolved around her warm bed and the solace of her tiny apartment. Yet, with her GPS signal lost for over an hour and no signs of civilization in sight, anxiety began to creep in. The only sound accompanying her was the monotonous rhythm of the windshield wipers struggling against the torrent. Her headlights illuminated the oppressive forest on either side of the road. The gnarled trees seemed to lean in, their twisted branches clawing at the sky. She hadn't seen another car in miles. Suddenly, a loud thud shook the car, jolting her from her thoughts. Her heart raced. Had she hit something? Reluctantly, Sarah pulled over to the side of the road. The rain pounded harder as she stepped out, flashlight in hand. She circled the vehicle but found nothing unusual. No fallen branch, no flat tire. As she straightened up, her flashlight beam caught sight of something in the distance. A dilapidated wooden house standing at the edge of the woods. The structure looked abandoned, its silhouette barely visible through the veil of rain. The sight of it sent an inexplicable chill down her spine. Her first instinct was to get back in the car and drive, but a nagging thought held her back. What if there's someone there? Maybe they can help me find my way. Against her better judgment, she grabbed her umbrella and trudged toward the house, each step sinking into the muddy ground. The house seemed to grow larger as she approached, its sagging roof and peeling paint illuminated sporadically by flashes of lightning. The front door creaked open before she could even touch it, as if inviting her in. She hesitated on the threshold, her pulse quickening. The air was cold and damp, carrying the unmistakable scent of rot and mildew. "Hello?" she called out tentatively. Her voice echoed through the dark, cavernous space. No reply. The flashlight's weak beam illuminated the interior. A dusty living room furnished with a tattered couch, a cracked mirror, and a fireplace that oddly contained fresh ashes. A faded photograph sat on the mantelpiece. Sarah's curiosity got the better of her, and she picked it up. It depicted a family of 4, a man, a woman, and 2 children, but their eyes had been violently scratched out, leaving jagged marks across their faces. A sudden noise shattered the silence, a faint giggle, high-pitched and childlike. Sarah froze, the photograph slipping from her hands. The sound seemed to come from deeper inside the house. "Hello? Is someone there?" she called out again, her voice trembling. This time, the response was the sound of footsteps overhead, deliberate and heavy. Every rational thought screamed at her to leave, but a morbid curiosity pushed her forward. She climbed the creaking staircase, her flashlight casting erratic shadows on the walls. At the top, a long hallway stretched before her, lined with doors. The last door on the right was slightly ajar, and a flickering light seeped through the gap. As she entered, Sarah realized it was a child's bedroom. The walls were adorned with faded wallpaper, and the floor was strewn with dusty toys. A small music box sat on a dresser, its haunting lullaby playing on a loop. On the bed lay a porcelain doll, its face cracked, one eye missing. Sarah's unease deepened. She reached for the music box, intending to shut it off, when the doll's head turned sharply toward her. A voice, softy yet dripping with malice, whispered, Why did you come here? Panic surged through her. She stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. The door behind her slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping her inside. The room grew colder, the walls seeming to close in. Shadows began to writhe and shift, coalescing into the form of a tall, gaunt figure. Its hollow eyes glowed faintly, and its voice rasped like the wind through dead trees. "You don't belong here," it hissed, advancing toward her. Sarah bolted for the door, yanking it open with a burst of adrenaline. She raced down the staircase, her footsteps echoing in the suffocating silence. The storm outside was a cacophony of thunder and rain as she threw herself into her car. Her trembling hands fumbled with the keys before the engine roared to life. She sped away, not daring to look back. As the house disappeared into the darkness, Sarah began to breathe a sigh of relief. But the car's radio crackled to life, filling the cabin with the same eerie lullaby from the music box. Her blood ran cold as a child's laughter echoed through the speakers, followed by a whisper, "You can't escape." The engine sputtered and died, leaving her stranded in the middle of the storm. Panic clawed at her chest. She turned on the flashlight, pointing it into the darkness beyond the car. And then she saw it, something moving at the edge of the forest. A shape, tall and skeletal, its glowing eyes fixed on her. Sarah wasn't alone, and she never would be again. The end.